Have you entered our giveaway with Looking Glass Gems? It is closing soon, so hop to it to our Instagram at the Pastie Tapes and enter now. Looking Glass Gems, beautiful, affordable crystal rhinestones. Shop lookingglassgems.com or live and in person at BurlyCon. This episode was brought to you with the support from listeners like you. Special thanks to superfan BFF level supporters Kyle H., the man with the hat, and Violet Passion. To support the Pastie Tapes, to keep this podcast rolling, join the Pastie Tapes fan club, and you can do that now by visiting thepastietapes.com. If you join the fan club, I will write you a love note, I will shout you out on air, I'll send you a handful of merch, and I will be forever, ever grateful. So special super thanks to Kyle H. and Violet Passion.
Oh, hello! This is Blanche Debris, and you're listening to the Pastie Tapes, a burlesque podcast by Show My More, the steamiest Asian dumpling.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Pastie Tapes. I am your host, Show My More, the steamiest Asian dumpling, recording live from my closet in Chicago. I want to give a shout out to Vivacious Miss Audacious, who in one of my Instagram Ask Me Anything question thingies asked, what's your favorite blanket to record under? And for the record, if I am not in my closet recording, then I'm usually in my living room with a blanket over my head. The blanket that I love the most for recording is a white faux fur throw blanket from Restoration Hardware that I got from my partner's mother when we first moved to Chicago. It is gorgeous. It lives in my living room. It now has a life as my own personal podcast sound booth situation, for one. It's really, really warm, and so it's perfect for the winter. But for now, we are still sitting in my closet, and that's also fine. It's great. Okay, BurlyCon season is upon us, so these next few episodes in the next coming weeks will have something related to BurlyCon, whether it's, a person who's going to be there or maybe some advice being thrown in. But this is one of my favorite times of the year. I think BurlyCon is where Show My More was truly born or started to hatch. But I went to BurlyCon before I debuted, and it was absolutely life-changing. I love BurlyCon. I think it's wonderful. So these next 4 weeks we'll have episodes that feature someone who's going to be attending BurlyCon or maybe some advice. We'll just keep it like BurlyCon related, and I'm super, super stoked for that. No pre-BurlyCon run would be complete without a conversation with this next performer. They are someone who I met at BurlyCon in 2017. I think they have an iconic style. They have a standout personality. They're just a delight to be around. I had the honor of hosting them in Chicago for about a week this past summer. We also went on a Grand Wisconsin weekender where we did things like go to a brewery tour, and they went to my partner's childhood home where we had a grill out, and she got to hang out with my partner's mom, and then we went to the Wisconsin State Fair. Overall, great, very Midwest. They're someone I find so charming and so lovely. This is my conversation with the Shimmy and Shake from the Aloha State, Miss Catwings. Miss Catwings, we are here in my living room in Chicago with Flanders the cat walking by your hands. Thank you for being on the Pastie Tapes.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, of course.
In your home.
In my home, literally in my home. We're on my couch. It's great. Okay, so Miss Catwings, tell me, what's your burlesque origin story?
Okay, so let's see. In 2006, I had a couple of friends that were in a local burlesque troupe that had just started that year. At the time, it was called Cherry Blossom Burlesque, and it was run by Lola Love and Megan Mayhem in Honolulu. And two of my friends that no longer actually do burlesque anymore were doing burlesque, and they kept kind of like poking me and being like, you should do this. You should totally do this. It's fun. You should do this. And at the time, I was a radio DJ on our local radio station, college radio station. And I was DJ Catwings at that time. I was comfortable behind a microphone and on the radio, but I'd never really been on stage before. They're doing like Sun Theater in high school and things like that. And I was just like, no, that's not really for me. I was much more modest than I am now. And they just kept asking me. And then finally, my first show that I ever did, I actually didn't really do burlesque, but I emceed. And I emceed this end of the year show in what I thought at the time was very scantily clad, but it really wasn't. But it was in lingerie, like a bustier and like a skirt type, like lingerie thing.
Yeah.
And
frilly
fishnets and, you know, much more naked than I had been ever on a stage. And I emceed and I did a couple of skits, and that was that. I started doing like group numbers after that. And then it took a full year back then before I ever did my first solo. And even with my first solo, I didn't go down to Pasties.
Why not?
At the time, I was very modest, and I actually never say never, right? So at the time, I said to my boyfriend that I would never go down to Pasties in a thong because that just wasn't me. And at the time, I just wasn't comfortable with my body. Mm-hmm. And never say never, because actually I was like the first person in our troupe to go down to like a merkin at that time. And so, yeah, I mean, never say never. But as my body confidence grew, you know, I was more comfortable with it. When I first started out, I wasn't. And burlesque gave me more confidence. And that's that.
Okay, let's walk back to your name. DJ Catwings.
Yeah, so I was
Miss
DJ Catwings. And then for burlesque, I was just Catwings. And so we added the Miss because people were just getting confused, like Catwings, like by itself. So then it was like Miss Catwings. And so the Catwings actually comes from my tattoo that's on my back. So I had my tattoo on my back when I first started DJing. And I don't remember exactly like how that stuck, but it just stuck. And so I've just been Miss Catwings ever since.
I love it. That makes sense. Seeing your back tattoo, it's like, oh, Catwings. Okay, I get it.
Well, it's funny enough. A lot of times when people meet me first, they never think about why I'm called Miss Catwings. And people have known me like sometimes for years before realizing like that's where my name comes from. Because it's like, it's funny, like they've seen me like perform a dozen times on stage, but then like, and I'm like, you know, half naked or whatever, and they don't notice my back tattoo until like one day they do, 2 years later.
But it is a cat with wings.
With wings, yeah.
Catwings.
Yeah.
Wow, so simple and elegant. Full package. Okay, so let's talk more about your journey in burlesque. Started in 2006. It took you a year to come up to do your first solo. From there, you know, what I know you as is this person who's really steeped in the burlesque community, really, really involved, from, you know, attending BHoF a bunch of times to being really involved with BurlyCon and involved with Tiki Oasis and all of these things in between. What was that turning point for you? Or like, when did that aha moment come where you realized, okay, cool, this has gone from just being a thing that you and your friends are doing to something that's a major part of your life?
Well, what did we decide yesterday? That it was
Recession.
The recession, which was when?
2008?
So 2008. So 2008, the recession was happening. And at the time, I was thinking that, like burlesque seems so superfluous. Like there's so many things happening right now. Like that seems very selfish. And then I rethought about it, about like the recession, like way back. And we were actually doing a show at the time called this Bethel Street Bailout Review that kind of gave a nod to that time period. And I I just thought about how, you know, people do need a form of escape when they're going through rough times, and when, you know, they need that moment of escape to escape their reality and their things, hardships, and, you know, their day. And so I thought, oh, that would be great. Like, I can help provide that, like, escapism in that time, and entertain people and, like, relieve them of that moment, and, like, let them be in a moment and enjoy themselves on stage, like when I'm on stage.
That's such a generous way to think of it. Was it an escape for you back then? Is it still an escape for you?
It was an escape for me at the time. At the time, I think that I had a job that I really didn't like. And doing burlesque did provide me an escape as well, aside from the audience. So I think that really helped me during that time as well. And then, like, a couple of years later, I think it seems to be that it was in 2012, Lola Love and we went to our first BurlyCon.
Yeah.
And we had never been to BurlyCon before, and we had heard about it, and we decided to go, and we stayed off campus. It was when it used to be at the Doubletree Hotel, and we stayed off, like, a 5 or 10 minute bus ride away in some little motel. So we ended up staying with Horchata Dantana and Steel Starling, and we didn't know them. They were looking for roommates, and, like, we found them, and then we became friends after that. It was really great. Way to start, like, our BurlyCon journey. Yeah, like, we went for the first time and, like, thought to ourselves that, like, this was a really great thing and we should, like, tell our community back home about it. And, you know, we committed to going every year after that. And Lola, being Lola, she totally, like, researched BurlyCon and then found out that they were hiring for programming director and other directorships, and she applied. And then after she got it, she encouraged me to volunteer and things like that. And, you know, we've been with BurlyCon ever since.
Right, right. Super involved, right? Lola being at the top right now,
she's executive director. She was programming director, now executive director. So it's crazy.
She just, like, dragged you along for the ride.
She kind of did. And then, like, a couple of years later, after 2012, I can't remember when our first one was, like 2014 or 2015. I think it was 2014. We went to our first BHoF. After going to our first BHoF, we also decided that that was something that we wanted to go to every year. So we committed to doing that. Mm-hmm. You know, you just, like, kind of figure out, like, how you're going to save money and make sure you do this thing that you want to do. So we continue to do that, and we go every year. And we've been doing that since, too. Yeah,
totally. And obviously this is, I mean, for anyone, right, this is an expensive endeavor, you know, just going, and then on top of that, and having the time, and then on top of that, flying in from Hawaii being much more expensive than someone flying in from, I don't know, LA or
Very
something.
Much so.
Even Chicago. Yeah. And so you really, really made this a priority, right?
Yes. Definitely made it a priority just because, like, the burlesque scene in Hawaii is very small. It's actually smaller than it used to be in a way. I mean, there was more people now, but it's a lot of newbies. And in the past, like, years and years ago, we used to do way more shows monthly, and now there's, like, less shows. But I wanted to make that a priority because for me, that's my burlesque community. Like, going to BurlyCon, going to BHoF, you know, having reunions with people, meeting people. And then, like, you know, whenever I do try to travel somewhere and things, like, making connections and friends and, you know, like, trying to explore, like, different burlesque scenes, which is really fun, and seeing how, you know, essentially, like, all the little areas around the US at least, you know, have the same like little hometown problems or have like similar things of like venue issues or like, you know, seeing how certain types of shows work in certain towns and other ones don't, or like seeing the difference in stage sizes or theaters or bar shows. And it's so interesting. Like, I really love burlesque, so traveling is great.
Yeah, I think of you as a very well-traveled burlesque performer, burlesque person in our industry. Like, in my head sometimes, like, if I'm curious about a place or something, I know I can hit you up and you'll have, like, you know, you'll have something to say about it. And that's been really helpful. Like, you're like, I don't know, a Guy Fieri of our burlesque scene. Just going around sampling the country.
That's hilarious.
Terrible.
And it's funny too, because for me, like, I don't think of myself as like someone well known in the burlesque community. You know, I do work for BurlyCon and like, you know, volunteer my time at BHoF, and, you know, I do like say hello to a lot of people. But as far as like my status as a burlesque performer, like, I don't really see myself as that. But I think that like it's probably because what we were talking about before with like Lola and I matching.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
So Lola Love and I, when we first started going to BurlyCon and BHoF, we decided that we would commit to wearing matching clothes to make people remember that we were from Hawaii. And initially we even started like wearing like rainbow clothes so that people would think of like rainbows in Hawaii and they would want to come to Hawaii. And so I feel like that's like also like why, like, even though like I may not be as an accomplished performer, like a lot of people know who I am just because of that weird thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say your personal style and then you paired with Lola made such a big impact on me as a newbie at BurlyCon. Like, I remember seeing you and I'm like, who's this Asian babe? Also rose-colored glasses? What's up with that? And then, you know, the next year, you know, you and Lola had incredible matching outfits from your clueless look to your goth look. It's great. And I think that level of personal or paired branding or whatever is so effective because that's how I, you know, got to know you and got intrigued. So I would say, for me at least, it's effective. Have you felt like it was effective in terms of getting people to come?
Yeah,
to Hawaii?
I feel like not even like, maybe not just even just people coming to Hawaii, because coming to Hawaii is expensive and we can't necessarily like afford to bring people out. I think the only real ones that weren't already coming through Hawaii that we brought out was Reagan and Indigo Blue for a show that we did together. But other than that, I think it's been very effective in like, you know, people knowing to hit us up. Well, not Lola anymore because she's no longer living in Honolulu, but to hit us up if they're coming through Honolulu. Or like people knowing like, oh yeah, you're going to go to Hawaii, like hit up Lola and Catwings, you know? And so I think it was effective in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You mentioned earlier that the scene is still pretty small in Hawaii in terms of like number of shows, but it's gotten bigger in terms of people, more newbies hitting the scene. What's it like being, you know, the veteran performer out there in your state?
I don't know. Like, I mean, I think I feel like I perform a lot more outside of my state than I do in my state now. But that's for a multitude of reasons. One being for a couple of years, I was just like exhausted in doing shows. So I used to produce, but I don't produce anymore. And that was just because I literally just want to like show up and like don't do anything. So that was like a personal choice. Also like for a couple of years, I was like uninspired and I wasn't really creating any new acts. So I started performing less and less, inside my state. And then like, I don't know, like a couple of years ago, like 2 years ago, I think I got like reinvigorated with like wanting to create new acts again and perform. And, but I've still just pretty much just like reached out like whenever I travel versus when I'm back home. And that's just like at the moment, just like due to like venue access and like me not wanting to produce a show and versus how many shows are available.
Right.
So, but like, I don't mind, like, I enjoy seeing new people, in the scene and stuff. I would teach if I like, I guess, had more energy to like, you know, rent a venue to do it. But I haven't had that energy to like actively seek students. Although like some people have asked me like, oh, would you teach like a group class? I was like, totally, hit me up. And then like they never do. You know.
Right, it happens.
You know how it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, one of my key memories of you, one of my first memories of you was at BurlyCon in 2017, my first time going. I attended the POC caucus. I wasn't planning on going because I was like, some other cool class is happening, or like maybe I'm not POC enough for this. And then I go and there's a handful of, you know, other Asian performers. And at the end of the formal informal programming of the POC caucus, you know, people kind of splintered off and gravitated to whoever they wanted to talk to. And you made a really, really strong effort of gathering the small but mighty number of Asian performers in the room, right? I remember you like grabbed my hand and were, you know, made a circle essentially of all of us there. And I don't think I was crying at that point, but then I saw you were crying and you said something like, there's so many of us here. There's so many of us. And you started crying, and then I started crying, and now I'm in my living room starting to cry.
You're going to make me cry.
I know. I was just so confused. I was like, you know, there's like 8 of us. That's not a lot. Like, what the fuck is she talking about? Does she not know how to count? But then I like realized in seeing like the tears in your eyes and with, you know, how Die Lovely was misting up and, you know, other Asian performers in that group were misting up. 8 is a big number.
8 is a big number.
There was something really powerful about that. And wow, what a first major impression, you know, to have in my head of you. And so first I want to say thank you. Thank you for making me stop and recognize 8 is a big number, right? 2 is a big number. 1 is a big number when it comes to representation.
It is.
And that mattering. Do you want to share your thoughts on, you know, Asian representation in the burlesque scene?
Yeah, well, like, okay, so from that, first of all, you're making me cry.
Yeah, we're both tearing up.
Crying.
My cat is freaking out now because we're both crying.
And so let me go back to like, okay, so the first time, I don't know what year it was. I know that Shanghai Pearl was teaching that year, and Loa Da Boom Boom had organized this POC photo, and funny story, that she had put it on the schedule or something, and Don Spiro saw that it said POC photo, and Paul O'Connell, who his business is called POC Photo, Don saw Paul and was like, hey, like, I think you're supposed to be in this place taking a photo. Like, I saw your name on the schedule. And he's like, oh, okay. Like, and he went over to this room, and I just happened to be in this room. Like, I wasn't intending, like, I didn't know that this thing was happening. And, I remember like Shanghai Pearl being there and a whole bunch of other Black performers. And I feel like our legend that year was Lottie the Body. And, they were like all gathered, and then Paul comes and is like, I'm here to take the photo. And Loa Da Boom Boom, who had organized it, literally was just gonna like take it with her cell phone. But then Paul showed up, and it was just, we had a huge laugh because POC photo for the POC photo. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of stuck after that. But so they're like all gathered to take this photo, and I'm like sitting on the sidelines just like watching them. And then they're like, Catwings, come join this photo. And I was like, wait, what? And at that time, I just didn't know that I was POC like at all. Like, I didn't know really what that meant. And they were like, yeah, like, come join us.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. I guess I'm POC.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was like a great experience, you know, like first recognizing that I was a person of color. I think coming from Hawaii, first of all, like I just didn't know the term really that much. And also like as someone that lives in Hawaii, like I'm not the minority. Mm-hmm. Like white people are actually the minority in Hawaii. So like it wasn't like a thing that was on my radar. But as far as like in burlesque, like, you know, like we had such a small, even the amount of people for that POC photo, like for 2018, I think that photo, like if you look at the first photo that we took and then last year's photo, it's grown like 4 times.
Right.
Or 5 times as big as that first one that we took. And so like that representation like really matters. Like now we have so many different group photos in the POC photo, you know, before that wasn't even really possible.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
And so, you know, at that was it 2017?
Yeah,
BurlyCon,
2017. Yeah.
You know, I asked everybody at that group, all the Asians, that would they be interested in having a group Facebook that connected all of us, because the thing that I heard the most from that group was that I'm the only Asian person in this community, in my burlesque community back home. And I feel frustrated because I can't talk to other people. Like I have a mentor, but they're not Asian. They're not POC. They don't understand my struggles. And so I asked everyone right then and there, like, would you want this group on Facebook? Like, so that we can still connect with one another. And it was like, yes, we want that. So as we started, doing it, like more and more people started, you know, adding themselves, and like the word got out in the community and whatnot that we had this group. And let me look right now. Now we have 116 members in the Asian Burlesque Performers and Industry group on Facebook.
That's incredible.
And so that makes me super happy, because in a lot of these communities, like overseas especially, like they're like the only Asian person in their community. And like other people don't quite understand like what they might go through with certain racism things, or like, you know, microaggressions. And like, I really wanted it to be a place where we could like open up and bitch to each other first, before like expressing it like in a bigger forum on Facebook or like in other social media, because I feel like that's like super important. Like, you know, let's see what do we feel about it first before it opens up to everybody else, you know, like all these different issues.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm really like stoked that that's happened and it's grown.
Right.
And yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing I'm so grateful, like I'm so grateful to know you, but I'm so, so grateful that in 2017 you grabbed my hand and said, okay, we need to get all the Asians together, right, in this room while we're all here. Like, let's do that. Yeah. And then, you know, from there, like I feel like you've always been this way, but, you know, it became very clear, you know, after that moment, your commitment to community, right, building this Facebook group at BHoF, you know, taking the time to find people to go to dim sum with us. And, you know, after the pool party, like finding all the Asians, like to take photos and everything. And I'm just so grateful. And I think with my like burlesque story, you know, the first performer that I'd ever seen was Katana Louise, one of the first. And so I'm very lucky in that sense that I got exposed to an Asian performer, a Filipino performer right away. But meeting you and these efforts that you've put out in the burlesque world, like really helped me see how important representation is, and that we exist. And like, let's not discount the fact that we exist. So thank you. Thank you so much.
I mean, if you think about it, like 116 people in the entire burlesque world isn't a lot. And so, like, I feel like, yeah, connect, like, and there's still more, you know what I mean? Like, there's still more that aren't a part of the group. The way that we've made it too is that you can only like really add yourself. You can't add somebody else. We don't like to do that because for whatever reason, sometimes people don't like to associate themselves that way. And so, you know, we just reach out to people and ask them if they would like to be added. And, you know, now myself and Toss and Calamity manage the group so that it's not like one-sided. And, you know, we try to make sure that like we're protecting the community by keeping people that shouldn't belong in the group, like, you know, in the group. Because we've had a couple of like burlesque enthusiasts try to join the group, but they have nothing to do with burlesque.
Right.
It's what, like, we have it for burlesque and industry. So if it's like sound people or costume people, like, we'll add them. But if it's just like a audience member, we won't do that, you know?
Right.
So
yeah. Thank you. Okay. All right, Catwings, let's close out on your journalism background. You have a background in journalism. You've worked for a weekly newspaper. You've worked in radio. You're also hella organized on top of that. And you offer this really great workshop that I've taken at BurlyCon. I took it again this weekend while you were teaching at the Chicago Academy of Burlesque, called Press Kit Like a Pro. What?
Exclamation point.
Sorry. Okay, let's redo that. Press Kit Like a Pro! Exclamation point. I just did a freeze frame pose in my living room, just so you know, listeners. Talk to us about that class. What's one thing you want people to know? Give us a helpful hint.
So first of all, the reason that I teach Press Kit Like a Pro and wanted to get that information out into the world is because there's so many people that when they travel or when they are promoting their shows, they are reinventing the wheel all the time and they don't have their information even though they just act all the time, and they take a week to get back to a producer even though, again, they've done this act like a million times.
That's me.
And there's no shame, but, you know, there's no reason that you have to reinvent the wheel every single time you get hired for a gig or promoting your show or things like that. Like, there are ways to do this. And number one, you can either take my class, Press Kit Like a Pro. I'm going to try to find a way soon to make it available online as an online class if you can't come see me in person. I am teaching at BurlyCon this year, 2019, if you happen to be there. But otherwise, you can also hire me. And you can hire me to make your general press kit, or you can hire me to make a generic press release, and then you can follow my format after that, or I'll also continue to just hire me. But you can always find me on www.misscatwings.com to get in touch with me, and I'm Miss Catwings on Facebook and Instagram as well. So those are also avenues of getting in touch with me. And it's very affordable. And yeah, hire me.
Do it. Okay, Miss Catwings, thank you so much for being a part of such a fun weekend with me here in Chicago and in Wisconsin. I'm so glad to have been able to spend time with you, and thank you for chatting with me on the Pastie Tapes.
The Pastie Tapes.
On the Pastie Tapes.
The Pastie Tapes.
Wow. All right, let's go get dinner. Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Miss Catwings, for having this conversation with me. I can't believe that, like, she was at my house like 2 months ago. I feel like it was just yesterday. Time has been really fucked up for me recently. But it was a delight, total delight. Would absolutely have you back in my apartment again, on the show again. I adore you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Pastie Tapes. Special thanks to superfan BFF level supporters Kyle H., the man with a hat, and Violet Passion. I also want to give a shout out to our friend level supporters Kits and Sass, Tony Tabasco, Rosalie Bloom, and Fufu Kaboom. If you want to support the Pastie Tapes, visit thepastietapes.com and join the fan club now. And finally, my undying love goes to Blanche Debris for recording the intro and outro that you've been listening to these past few episodes. Blanche and I will be performing together in Minneapolis in mid-November. And right now, we are just continually geeking out at the fact that we'll be seeing each other. And, okay, picture this. I feel like my interactions with Blanche Debris are like sparkly emojis and heart eyes emojis, like personified. I'll see you soon, Blanche. You can leave a message or send a text to the Pastie Tapes hotline, and that's 1-530-PASTIES, or you can send an email to thepastietapes@gmail.com. You can follow the Pastie Tapes across the internet at the Pastie Tapes on Instagram and Twitter and other places, I'm sure. I am your host, Show My More, the steamiest Asian dumpling, and you can find me at Show My More across the internet. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Pastie Tapes, and I will talk with you soon.
You have been listening to the Pastie Tapes, a burlesque podcast by Show My More, the steamiest Asian dumpling. This is Blanche Debris saying thanks for listening, and see you later, ducklings.
You can catch me performing across the Midwest this winter, but you can especially find me at BurlyCon. I will be teaching my workshop, Cooler on the Internet, and I'll even be leading a Burly lab called Social Media in Your Sleep. If you want to learn how to have some internet fun with me, find me at BurlyCon. If you're not going to be there, feel free to send me a love note, and let's talk about other ways that you can learn. Some other cool things coming out. I have a new 1-inch enamel pin designed by Blues Chicken that should be here soon, available for pre-order. If you want to have a fat babe body pinned on ya, if you want to have my fat babe body pinned on ya, check out my Instagram. You can see the illustration and let me know if this is something you want to pre-order. Happy to hand it over to you at BurlyCon or mail you something with a love note. Okay, until next week. Talk to you later.